What's up, you guys? We're back. We're back in my living room. Did you miss me? And I told you guys last week when I was in New York for draft that when I got back, we were going to tap into everything free agency and we were going to tap into everything with just what's going on in the trade world. Since then, a lot has happened. So I'm going to try to go off the top of my head of what I'm thinking. We got to talk about Chris Paul joining the Golden State Warriors. That's crazy. Jordan Poole going to the Wizards. Draymond Green hasn't made a decision just yet. Dame is trying to meet with Portland to figure out what their plans are before he makes a decision. Bradley Beal is now part of the Phoenix Suns. Kyrie Irving is going to entertain talking to other teams about free agency. Who else? I'm trying to think. Who are we missing? James Harden and the 76ers have also agreed that it's just not going to work and that he would like to be traded. That's a lot. Dang. That is a lot. So we're going to go into all that. And I'm not even naming everyone else I could think of because Fred VanVleet is still in there. Who else? D'Angelo Russell. That's a conversation. We're going to try to hit the main ones, but as you could tell, there's a lot to talk about. So we're going to get into that. So now let's go on the first of my list, Draymond Green. Now, he declined his player option, and he has made it abundantly clear that he would love to stay a Golden State Warrior. And he recently said on the Paul George podcast that he didn't understand how special it was what he was able to have since day one being with Golden State until really recently. And going through this whole free agency situation and understanding what him, Clay, and Steph were able to create from really being drafted there is immensely special, and that people in this league don't really get that. And he has made it clear as well, saying that he has kept Steph and Clay up to date every step of the way of free agency. So if he's talking to teams where his mind is at the time, he's pretty much making sure to engage them with all the talks and letting them know so that if something does transpire where he is leaving, they're not in the blind about any of it. I think it's fair to say that the Jordan Poole Chris Paul trade, I don't know if that has anything to do with Draymond. I don't even think he has a part to play in it. What I do believe, though, is that they made a decision. And some people may not want to acknowledge that, but I do believe a decision was made at Golden State, which was, do you keep Draymond or do you let Jordan Poole go? I don't know if it was blatant like that, but it does seem like that because I think they have also made it clear that they want Draymond to stay. And it's for obvious reasons. Draymond is in free agency because of money. He wants to be compensated for what he feels he has contributed to this team with the championships, his defense, his leadership, his IQ, all these things that make a championship team. You don't have championships in Golden State without Draymond Green. No one wants to admit that, but that's just the truth. So I do think they kind of drew their line in the sand in this weird way, right? And now you wonder, okay, so if you chose to keep Draymond, if this was really the decision, so what do you do after? I say you go ahead and give him the money. That's just me. I don't think it's any point in not giving him the money. Give him the money. He's earned it. Like, it's really that simple. So hopefully that's all figured out. That also leads us into Chris Paul being a Golden State Warrior. Chris Paul got the last laugh out of everybody because everybody was like, yeah, Phoenix is done with him. You know, he's telling the story on, the pivot saying how his daughter has to deal with these jokes that these kids are saying, at school, like your dad will never win a ring. And he let y'all cook. He's like, I'm going to let y'all cook. We had the biggest confusion of hearing that he was waived, then Frank Vogel saying that he wasn't waived, and whole mess, right? He says on Good Morning America that he's like on the plane when he hears the news that they pretty much waived him. Jokes on all of us and the Phoenix Suns because Chris Paul said, I got an ace up my sleeve for y'all. I'm joining the Golden State Warriors. Who would have had that on their bingo card? Not me. And I love it. I love it because it makes sense and it also leads to questions. It makes sense from a veteran standpoint how well he would work with them just because we're talking about Chris Paul. Like, one of the best point guards we've seen, and his ability to run an offense efficiently while also knowing when to go score himself. I think that in itself is a huge upside. The questions I have that cause some concern for me is that Chris Paul is one of the slower point guards in terms of his gameplay. I'm not saying he is slow. I'm saying that Chris Paul isn't necessarily a point guard who's going to up tempo all the time in the play style that he's in. I'm sure he can adjust and he will adjust. He's a professional, of course, but I am wondering, how does that work in the ebbs and flows of the Golden State Warriors offense, because it is controlled chaos. A lot of it is screens, running around, screen again, run around. And for Chris Paul's game, it's a little bit more settled. He likes to settle into an offense where Golden State isn't never really in a settled type of vibe in their offense. They're very much controlled chaos. So I do think it works because his IQ is obviously just through the roof and he can probably play with anyone. I mean, I think it would be for any point guard's dream to play with Steph Curry. That makes your job really easy because you know that he's always going to be moving without the ball. You're going to play with Klay Thompson. You understand who you're dealing with. And you know that these are good problems to have. But it is going to be interesting. I think it works out in this weird way. The more I keep watching it, like highlights of like when they would play against each other and trying to see how this works, it works. I think it could work. So I don't think it was horrible for them to go get Chris Paul. I do think that the Warriors are looking at more of experience now. I don't think they care so much about age. I think they still have a lot of young talent. If they really sit there and utilize Jonathan Kuminga, he could be an all-star. I'm saying it. If they really utilize JK as he should be and don't just sit him on the bench to rot and allow him to actually get game time minutes and continue to develop, that man's an all-star. It's really that simple. You watch the tape, you see his skills. He's athletic. He has a shot. He can get to the rim when he needs to. He's explosive at the rim. And he's also good enough and long enough and quick enough to defend some of the better players on other teams when tasked with that assignment. I'm just saying, if you're going to bring Chris Paul, you might as well really try to cultivate your young talent. Moody needs to be cultivated. JK needs to be cultivated. If you could cultivate those two after letting Jordan Poole go, they're in a good situation. That's just me. Now, I got on my list Jordan Poole. It does suck that had to happen, and that in a season your life can change. That's the nature of the business. That's what's really crazy. We went from a year of him playing extraordinary well, helping them in the playoffs in such a big way and being a real factor as to why they won a championship and getting paid this money, to a year later, a season later, him not performing as well. We have the situation that happens early in the season to now being traded to the Washington Wizards that are obviously in this odd rebuild mode, I guess you can say. And it makes you wonder, how does that work? How does that even make sense for Golden State? This is someone that you said you wanted here for 4 more years, a young talent that a lot of people felt like was going to be the next Splash Brother. And then these things happen, and it makes you question, like, did Bob Myers know that these things were forthcoming? And that's why he said, I'm washing my hands clean of it. I don't agree with these moves. Or was this something already in the works? I don't know. The rumblings were always on the wall throughout the season when it came to just Jordan Poole and the Golden State Warriors. You know, a lot of confusion in roles. I think it's obvious for any person who has a great season that you're going to expect more responsibility. You're kind of going to feel yourself. You're confident. You had this amazing season and help a team to a championship that has all these Hall of Famers on it. So with everything that happened, it is sad and unfortunate that it ended with him having to go to the Wizards, because that organization can be very questionable at times. And that's me being nice. But hopefully they could figure some things out. He could take what he's learned from the Golden State Warriors and be a real leader on that team and be the guy. I got it already circled when they play, because he might go for 40, 50. We don't know. You got to get your leg back some way, somehow. Now, let's move on. Damian Lillard. I know a lot of people are upset right now with Dame. I seen an analogy someone made about Dame recently. They said Dame is the girlfriend that tells everyone she's going to leave and is like complaining and then never leaves. This is what I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do see where that could possibly be true. Now, if you ask me, do I think Damian Lillard wants to leave the Portland Trailblazers? Not necessarily. I don't think he does. I think he would rather them get their act together. I think he has made it abundantly clear that he is loyal to what it is that he is doing and that he would rather succeed with what he has made in Portland than just leave and go somewhere else. But now I think it comes to a point where you have to ask the hard questions of your own career. Are you going to sacrifice possibly being NBA champion or at least having these deep playoff runs only for loyalty? And it's up in the air, right? It has been reported that his team and him are going to go talk to Portland and see where they are. You drafted Scoot Henderson at 3. Scoot has made it clear that he also wants to play with Dame. If you re-sign Jeremy Grant, do a few off-season hits, this is a team. It seems like that's all that Dame is asking for. Go make an actual push towards someone in free agency and bring them to Portland with me, and I'll be ready to go. That's what it seems like. But it also seems like Portland sometimes can be very oblivious to the needs that he is obviously being clear about, where now he might be in a situation where it's like, Miami wants me. It's a perfect fit. He has also said that he doesn't want to go on a stacked team. He'd rather go to a team that is pretty much assembled like the Miami Heat, where there's not a ton of all-stars, that he can come fit right into the culture and do what needs to be done. I still see it working. Miami makes sense to me. I believe Damian Lillard could be the reason Miami finally gets over the hump. They have to fix their scoring inabilities, their insufficiencies when it comes to scoring in rhythm. He helps that problem. If we're talking about problems and solutions, Damian Lillard is the solution to their scoring problem. It's really that simple. And if Portland is smart, they will figure this out quickly. Because if not, I do believe Damian Lillard might be a Miami Heat. That's just how I'm looking at it. I've seen some things where people are saying the Bucks and stuff. I don't know, but Miami seems good to me. Jimmy Butler said that he wants him. Portland, you need to figure this out quick because you're on the clock. So I know people are like, I'm tired and Dame just needs to pick. Dame has to take his time because this is a big deal. Dame's not a team hopper. So for him, this is a big situation. So yeah, I guess with the analogy, you're sitting there and he is the girlfriend that is telling everybody that he wants to leave and is complaining. But most of the time, the girlfriends that don't leave really just hoping that the guy actually get his stuff together so they could stay. And it sounds like Portland is the guy that Dame is hoping just gets their stuff together so he could stay. So that's how I look at it. Next on the list, we're talking Kyrie Irving. Now, it was first reported a few days ago that he was going to wear 11 in Dallas, which some people felt like that meant he was staying. They're good to go. Well, yesterday, it comes out pretty much that he is going to entertain talking to other teams during free agency. He has also made it clear he wants to contend for championships. Can that happen in Dallas? I don't know. Maybe. You know, for Kyrie, we obviously know, too, it's organizational fits. After everything that happened with Brooklyn, it's obvious that he wants to be in a place where some good leadership going on. Mark Cuban's a pretty good guy, I would assume, from what I've seen. He also said, even before, like, I didn't know much about Kyrie till I met him, other than the things that happened, and he's nothing like how the media portrays him. So, I don't know. Seems like a good place to be, but can they contend for a championship? Does he have aspirations of trying to reform with the Lakers, with LeBron James? Questions, right? But now they're saying that he may be talking to the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to say this right now, and we're going to get to Bradley Beal. If the Phoenix Suns mess around, go get Bradley Beal, you ain't got KD, you got Book, and you somehow go get Kyrie, if y'all don't win a championship with all of that, something is wrong. If that is possible, If that is possible, I'm just saying. That would be interesting. I also believe that these stars wanting to go to Phoenix really speaks highly of Devin Booker. I think it is clear that these guys around the league really have acknowledged him as a star in this league and are wanting and willing to come and go play with him. I think that is the biggest compliment for most stars in the NBA. If guys are wanting to leave where they're at to come to you. And I think Devin Booker said that in an interview once, that he wants to be a guy and to make Phoenix a place where people want to come play with him. And it's obvious that is it's happening. Guys want to go play with him. If they somehow could get Kyrie too, that would just be nuts. Literal nuts. But we'll see what happens. Maybe him and Luka could figure this thing out and they could really form something special in Dallas. But I am excited to see what happens with Kyrie because the media will sit there and say all these things about Kyrie, but the man is a magician with the basketball. One of the purest and best scorers, a real hooper that we have ever seen. And we try to discredit him because the media tries to distract you with all this stuff. At the end of the day, the guy is a hooper. He's a real basketball player who loves the craft. He's done things we haven't seen before. I don't understand how you would want to root against him in the form of basketball. And also, too, that the fact that he does have more to this life than just basketball. He makes that clear to everyone. I don't know. Sometimes we sit there and we're so critical of these guys because of all these other things. But if you're really looking at it with a clear eye view of just, man, this is a human being that just has more to their life than just basketball, but they also are amazingly good at basketball, it will help you look at things a little bit differently. So hopefully everything works out for Kyrie Irving. I think I'm excited to see where he goes. I would love for Kyrie to get another ring. Personally, that's just me, but we'll see. Next, Bradley Beal. I told you we was going to come back to that. Bradley Beal finally leaves the Washington Wizards. And big shout out to Bradley Beal and his agent because they're going to be the reason no other team probably does the no trade clause ever again. With the no trade clause, pretty much they just can't trade him anywhere. Pretty much he has to agree. He has to then waive his no trade clause if the trade he is being presented he feels like is best for him. This is why the Phoenix Suns were able to get Bradley Beal for a piece of gum. A piece of gum. And give Washington not really much because of his no trade clause. Now, in other situations where you have no say-so and you just can't trade me all willy-nilly, then, Phoenix might have had to come up off some people. They didn't have to come up off really too much, honestly. And it worked out because now Bradley Beal is with the Phoenix Suns. People are saying all these things. Well, Bradley Beal isn't this, isn't that. Bradley Beal is a scorer. Simple as that. He can score at all three levels. He can defend. He adds more scoring ability to their floor. He's someone that can also run with that bench unit if necessary, because we kind of saw that as a struggle throughout the playoffs where they were trying to see what the best form of action would be with that bench unit with Book or KD, who rests, who does this. This gives you more scoring, more ability. It works. He said in his, introductory press conference that they told him, come and be who you are. And he also made it clear that he understands that this is Book's team, that he is here just to do his job, but they want him to be Bradley Beal. So when you're playing freely, you understand what this team dynamic is, who's the leader, who's the guy, and everything else runs smoothly when you understand that there's no pressure on you. You just got to perform. It is crazy that, again, the Phoenix Suns got him for a piece of gum. I'm also confused on how the Phoenix Suns are doing all this, and DeAndre Ayton is still on the team. It's speaking volumes. It's speaking volumes because I don't get how they're doing all this and somehow DeAndre Ayton is not in any of these trade packages. It's actually very impressive because most teams would be like, no, give me Ayton. Give me the big guy. No, they're just out here willing and dealing and got Bradley Beal again for a piece of gum. I'm not going to let that go. I'm just not. Because Washington, I don't understand. If you're going to sit there and get Bradley Beal, I would have been asking for, give me Chris Paul. They got Landry Shamet. They got a few picks as well. I would have said throw DeAndre in there too. Throw him right in there. But no, they didn't do that. So again, don't know how the Phoenix Suns are doing it. Frank Vogel is the coach, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does with this entire roster and what other moves they might make, because if Kyrie gets there too, I might really there will be no excuses for the Phoenix Suns if they get Kyrie too. But you got Bradley Beal, and that in itself is a big deal. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Phoenix Suns end up working out. But they do need to get some more spots of getting some role players and a bench. That is what is really depleted for them. If they could get some solid role players and some bench, they'll be cooking with something. We got James Harden. Now, I told someone the other day that I didn't believe that James Harden wanted to stay with the 76ers. I think a decision was also made in Philly as well. Doc Rivers or James Harden. Well, it ended up being both of them. And they let Doc go. And now they've come to the conclusion that they're going to let James go. He has declined his player option and has made it clear to them as well, I want to be traded. Both sides have agreed to this. The reports say that Philly knew that James Harden was never going to be a long-term situation, that they were pretty much prepared for this. Now, where does he go? I don't know. Do I think there is a cause of concern if you have been to 4 teams almost since 2021? It's only been 2 years. Sure, there's a cause of concern. I don't know what the top choices of teams he would want to go. Houston is back in the mix. I don't know what that looks like, because that means for Houston to be in the mix, that means they got to give up some young talent to go to Philly. That's not a bad situation, because Philly has the MVP, Joel Embiid. They have Tyrese Maxey, which I believe if they actually run more of the offense through him, he becomes an all-star in this upcoming season. But it's interesting because to do all these trades, I think Tobias Harris might be in the mix of that trade. He said it. He said the casual 76ers fan would trade me for a crumble cookie. Crumble cookies are pretty expensive, and they're pretty big. I'm just saying. But he might be right. So at this point, it makes you wonder, what do the 76ers do? If you're going to let James go, I hope you get something out of it. Don't be like the Washington Wizards and get only a piece of gum. I'm not letting that go. I'm sorry. I'm holding on to that grudge, and I'm on that hill. It is what it is. Because if you're going to let James Harden go, and hopefully Philly is looking at the landscape of everything, you need to get some valuable pieces, some assets. If you're going to give him to Houston or whoever, make sure you're getting something in return. You need some role players. You need a deeper bench. Okay, let me get some bench players that you got. Okay, if you're going to Houston, let me get some of those young assets that you got. Let's build this thing. So we'll see where James Harden lands. That will be interesting as well. Last one, and I just thought about this one. I said earlier I was going to end up forgetting someone. Bruce Brown. A lot of reports are saying that Bruce Brown might end up at the Los Angeles Lakers. There is no way Denver is going to allow that to happen. If Denver allows that to happen, after y'all said he's like a huge reason why y'all won this championship, he got you over the hump, I don't know. It has to do with the money, player options, all of that. We're going to see what unfolds with that. But if you tell me that the Lakers re-signing Reeves, they figured out with Rui, man, I'm trying to... That it could work, but I don't know. People get to the Lakers and then their jumpers start struggling. They start not being able to hit their mid-range and stuff. I don't know. I like Bruce with Denver. I think it's so profitable and prosperity for him. Like, on that court, he just fits their system very well. But now they say there's rumblings. He could be with the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't know. We'll figure it out as time goes on. Let me look at my list. We hit them all. Draymond, Dame, Jordan Poole, Chris Paul, Kyrie, Bradley Beal, James Harden, and we sprinkled in Bruce Brown. That's just right now. We don't know what could happen tomorrow or the day after with these trade talks. Free agency officially begins in like a day. So we're going to try to stay up to date with this as best as possible. But y'all tell me some of these free agencies and who you think should go where and how you see it turning out, because free agency in the NBA is one of the craziest free agencies ever. It's not many leagues that compare to this. because it's going to get weird. And if everybody ends up just staying at their respective teams, then I'm going to kind of be underwhelmed. I'm prepared to be overwhelmed with everything that's going on. So, again, we're going to see. Shout out to everyone that has subscribed, liked, commented. I appreciate you guys so much. Please continue to do so. Share it on all platforms. Come talk to me because literally it's the summer and I want to talk all things sports. You can even talk to me about your favorite shows at this point. I've been watching The Bear on Hulu. Listen, I binged all the way to season 2 already. It's only season 2. So before y'all be like, how many seasons? It's only season 2. Go on Hulu, type in The Bear. Season 1 has 8 episodes. Season 2 has 10. I'm on season 2, episode 7. By the time y'all see this, I'll probably be done with the entire series. It's really good. Go watch it. I don't want to spoil it for you. Just know you're going to meet some people named Carmi, Sydney, Richie, Nat, Sugar, as they call her. Just go watch it. And if you love food, you would probably appreciate this culinary show. But I'm hooked and I'm on it. So go watch it. We could talk about that next week. Y'all go watch that and then come back to me. But again, I appreciate you guys so much. We'll be talking next week, everything that happens, because it's going to get crazy in the NBA. And we might have to sprinkle in some football next week because training camp is going to be starting towards the end of July. We'll get into that. We got time. But for now, we're going to talk about this NBA and this free agency and this offseason, which is about to be nuts. So again, I will be seeing y'all next week. Please comment, like, subscribe, everything to the channel, to this video. And I appreciate you guys, and I'll be seeing you.